Our podcast is a part of the World Podcast Network, now with over 1,000 podcasts. Visit the World Podcast Network at worldpodcast.network to listen to podcasts in over 12 genres. Come vote our podcast episodes up and help us rise on the leaderboard. If you have a podcast of your own, you can join for free. Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we are going to be finishing up, hopefully, with Married at First Sight. So with this episode, we're going to be going from halfway through reunion part 1 and then finishing up with part 2. So because I've split this, I'm not going to do any hot goss in this episode, but we will have some for future episode. Let's jump in with Chloe and Michael. So the difference I noticed with them when we're doing their little thing here is that they're actually sitting together. And whereas the others do not, but they're actually sitting together. But the only thing that would have deterred her from saying yes on decision day was if he was some sort of monster, because she's basically trying to say, I was all in. So when it comes to her leaving the apartment, if you remember in the beginning, after wedding, honeymoon, retreat, all of that, she left the apartment. So when it comes to that, she says, full transparency, I would have stayed. And honestly, it's what I actually wanted to hear him say. She wanted to hear him say, no, don't leave. The only thing I have issue here is he doesn't know you. He doesn't know you enough to know whether or not you need that time. And, whatever, like he's still getting to know you. So testing somebody in the beginning of a relationship in this way is actually kind of fucked up. So that's the one thing I had issue with, was her saying that, because I'm like, okay, so you were testing him? Like, why did you find that at all necessary to do? So she feels he was really in this for maybe, some reason that isn't necessarily about the marriage. She says, in the car, she gives an example, in the car, waiting to go to the hotel after the wedding ceremony, she asked him, so what's my new last name? And he told her, oh, no need to change your last name. And she kind of took that as, okay, on one hand, maybe he's not this traditional guy who needs me to have his last name, which he is not a traditional guy, you can tell. But she took on the other hand of, is there a reason I can't have your last name? Because, hindsight now being 2020, did you not intend to stay married to me? And then she said, when it came to his mom not knowing about the marriage, she said, I feel no matter what, he should have told her, no matter the cultural differences, and she respects the cultural differences, but at the same time, she's like, but she should have known. And again, I do understand where she's coming from, but when you're dealing with a situation here where he did tell his mom about the first marriage and that went to shits, and this is a woman who seems to be kind of traditional and wasn't really all in on this to begin with, the idea of her son potentially going through this again and potentially getting his heart broken again, I can understand why he maybe didn't want to tell her. I don't think it's necessarily nefarious reasons why he didn't want to tell her. So she can say all she wants that she wanted him, that she would have liked him to tell his mom, but I think unless you know his mother and you know the situation, like you can say whatever it is that you want to say, and she's entitled to say it. But again, the issue I have is, why didn't you tell him that then in the moment? Why are you now telling him? Because again, hindsight being 2020, but that's still not fair. Because now you're going into the light of, okay, well, he didn't say yes to me on decision day. So is, this, and this, the reason, like, were the signs telling me that he didn't want to marry me or say marry to me. And I think that's a little bit unfair, because if you felt those things in the moment, you should have told him. You should have told him in the moment, I really don't like the fact that your mom doesn't know. And he says, I probably would have pushed back 100%, but at least I would have known. And I find it a little bit suspicious that she wouldn't just tell him how she was feeling. So, and I think, again, actually, before I move on to the next thing, I think that's actually really interesting, because it's coming out now that she maybe wasn't being completely honest with how she was feeling after Dr. Pia literally said, it feels like you're not being authentic. It feels like you're not saying everything. And holy shit, I gave shit to Dr. Pia for saying that she wasn't being authentic and all of this. I was giving her all the shits. I apologize to Dr. Pia because I think she was right. She wasn't necessarily being authentic in those moments. She was holding back. And you're not serving yourself or Michael by holding back in these moments. So, okay. He says with the last name, I remember telling her the name, but that she didn't need to change it. So he's saying that maybe she's interpreting it in the wrong way. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. And then again, I said this already, but with his mom, it's not that he didn't tell his family. His family didn't know, it's just that his mom didn't know, right? She understood the cultural reasons behind it, but it, you know, it wasn't until decision day, she says, that the thought process shifted for her. But again, yeah, I understand that, but now you're looking for reasons as to why he did it. And that's actually self-deprecating. Don't search for the reasons why he didn't say yes on decision day. Have a conversation and ask him what the fuck went wrong, instead of searching for these reasons because you're trying to justify his reasonings for saying no. And I think she is looking in places that is not going to give her those answers. So what was the reason that you didn't say yes on decision day, Michael? Well, he said that he didn't necessarily have like this list or something that he could have pinpointed a reason why he didn't say yes. It's not because of her. He says, Kevin says, did you just not want to be married? And I think that's kind of the running thing. Here you have a theme. Here you have a guy who had Runaway Bride, and he seemed out of all of them, seemed to be the one who wanted to be married the most. Yet he's the one that said no, as well as all the other guys. So it's just like, what the fuck? So, well, I guess technically Austin and Becca didn't say no. They technically said yes, but it's just like, what the fuck happened? So I think, did he just not want to be married? He said, well, I think also Kevin said, why not just try? But Michael feels that they had enough foundation, or didn't have enough foundation to just try. And the thing is, it's like, okay, their process through marriage was a lot shorter than everybody else's. have a chance. Give yourself that chance to try to see if something can work. Have conversations on whether or not this can work before just saying, fuck it. I do agree that they could have done that and they just didn't. He also says that maybe I should have been more transparent. No shit, you should have definitely been. I think I said that throughout their process. But he does regret not saying yes on decision day. Who fucking knew? I'm sure we all fucking knew that he was going to regret that decision. And he regrets not giving it that try. But Chloe does not want to try again. You know, you had your chance, you fucked it up, and now you're not going to be able to come back. And I think that's fair. She's like, him trying, or him not wanting to try basically shows her that he wasn't the one for her. And I think that's great attitude to have. But she says that she has not been dating. However, she is healed. And he is also not dating anyone. And yeah, that's basically it for them. So now we got all the ladies out, just them. And their core anger, which is really just a secondary emotion, is that they didn't all kind of get what they felt they deserved. The men were not ready. And I think there's definitely some truth in that. I think personally there's some women here that weren't ready either. Emily says, for example, her says that it's not just the anger, it was also sadness, which I think there it is, that's the real emotion here. And she's like, I wish I could feel that anger though. Why? Why would you rather feel the anger? The anger is just hiding the real emotion. The fact that you say you're feeling sadness is actually a step ahead of everybody else. So do the work that you need to do to rectify that sadness and be able to move on freely. And that's it. I wouldn't choose to feel angry at somebody. So Kevin says, you're strong. So why not just tell them, hell no to doing this scheme? And Becca feels that there was conspiring when it comes to the lack of intimacy with all of the marriages. Of course, not including Chloe and Michael because they did have sex. And I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I do understand what she's saying here because it is interesting that, yes, all these marriages, except for Michael and Chloe, were sexless or didn't even attempt to have any form of intimacy. But I think if we look at the couples we have here, Lauren and Orion really had a chance, and he took sex off the table when he felt a little bit of threatening or some shit. So they were done within a week. Claire and Cameron could barely stand being in the same room with each other most of the time, so of course there's no intimacy happening there. So yeah. Emily and Brennan, Brennan pretty much was not attracted to her from day one after the honeymoon. So of course there's not going to be any form of intimacy between them either. So the only people that were left was Becca and Austin. And for whatever reason, I think we've talked about that already in the previous episode, is that maybe there's a little more to Austin that we don't know. And maybe that's why they didn't have any form of intimacy. I don't know. So yeah, there's usually ways you can talk to yourself out of conspiracy. And then we get a never before seen clip of Becca, bringing that up, and Austin denying it. Becca does clarify, I don't have an issue with people's speeds. So I think we're talking about, obviously the lack of intimacy between them. But the lack of the emotional intimacy, which could end to being, more physical, on the table. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. So, and I do understand that you don't necessarily have to get in bed with somebody and, just insert here. The intimacy is more than that. And if you can at least do the cuddling, do the making out, maybe do the touching and then eventually get into the heavy petting. And then eventually you can get to that, to me, it seems like there wasn't a lot of that happening. Like, I don't think it was non-existent, but I think at one point it definitely was non-existent between them. But I think, there just wasn't a lot of that. So I get that. I get that frustration. So then Kevin asked Emily after the accident, did you think it could have worked out between her and Brennan? And Emily says, I do think he used the accident to make himself look good. 1000% he did, because he pretty much put it out there. But in this moment, Claire's just being very, just smothering, because Emily is getting really emotional. She's crying, and Claire's just like fucking all over her. Give this woman some fucking room. That's why I believe Cameron when he says Claire is a little bit more conniving than she wants people to think she is. I really do believe that. And there's going to be a little more on that in the second half. So we'll get to that. So now we're done with the ladies. We're going to be having Emily and Brennan. And while they're walking on set, Brennan is walking ahead of Emily. Emily's behind him. And again, the childish shit that Emily is doing here is she has to stick her middle fingers up at Brennan, and like she thinks that and she says it later, that she thinks that people watching the show are going to be like, yeah, Emily, you go, girl. Where maybe some people are for sure, but I think for me, I'm just like, you look stupid. Can you stop? Like, all in all, as much as I still don't like Brennan, I won't like Brennan. It is what it is. I still think he came out looking 1,000 times better than Emily did, and that's saying something. What the fuck? Anyways, so now we're doing their stuff. He says, we were in a match. And I think that's an understandable thing. And I think we're really going to get into her psyche here as to the kind of person Emily is. He's like, I stopped trusting the process, and we heard a lot of this throughout the process. I don't trust the process. I don't trust the process. We saw that with how he handled things with the experts. I totally, he's not lying here. He's like, I stopped trusting the process when I wasn't correctly matched. And I do think he wasn't correctly matched. I do think that. I think neither of them were correctly matched. I think personally, neither of them should have been on the show. Has been a part of this process for their own different reasons. So she says, you would, if I was being negative, you would punish me. If I was being positive, you would quote unquote award me. And that's really fucking gross. And I do believe her here. And if I yelled, you would leave, as an example. And Brennan says, she would think that this tone is yelling. I don't think he's necessarily a yeller, but I think he's a kind of person, he's a narcissist, guys. He's the kind of person that would be like, he's upset, but he has that weird, eerie, same level tone to his voice, but he's mad. Like, that's the kind of person I can see Brennan is. And I'm just like, yeah, you can mince it, but I think she knows when you were mad or when you were quote unquote punishing her versus when you weren't. So, okay. But let's talk about the expert stuff. And he says, I was too concerned about how things would affect her. We're still on the same fucking trope. And he says, he was kind of confused. He's never done therapy before because he thought that the therapy sessions were kind of like this free situation, I guess. And, you know, her hurting would like tug at him, like, yeah. And she says, you weren't protecting me. You were protecting you. That's all that mattered here. And yeah, that is all that mattered to him, was protecting himself. He has said that many, many times. The difference between, like, as we know, it's been admitted by everybody that there was this scheme. The differences between everybody else and fucking Brennan is that he made it very fucking clear he cared about the optics of this show. And I could see him being the fucking ringleader. And I don't know why people are I mean, can see Cameron potentially saying, oh, hey guys, because he's a weirdo. Not disrespecting. I'm a weirdo too. But I do think that Brennan definitely took it to infinity and beyond, with, worrying about how he'll look. Um, so he says, I was trying to, and she says, do you understand? You tried to control the narrative. You manipulated me. And he says, we were in a great place after the accident. They were. And then all of a sudden, this malicious rumor started about the double date situation, which, technically, if I remember correctly, maybe I remember the timeline incorrectly here. If I remember correctly, it was this fucked up dinner that y'all had, and then the rumors happened. The rumor happened, or, well, yeah. So she says, rumors, plural, not just one. And that is where we're done with part 1. So let's just jump right into episode 33, reunion part 2. What rumors? He mentioned to Cameron, apparently, and Austin, that he wanted to fuck Lily. And we're like, who the fuck is Lily? We're going to find out who the fuck is Lily. We've seen Lily before. And then the other rumor is that in the hot tub, you DM'd Claire's friend saying that you wanted to move in with me, talking about Emily, and then you text Cameron about the double date. I don't fucking believe that he texted Claire's friend to say that he wanted to move in with Emily. He didn't want a shit to do with Emily in a romantic sense. What? But we established the double date thing did happen. It's just, how is the question. But anyway. So to clarify though, so we know, Lily is Emily's ex best friend. Let's not forget the ex in front of the best friend. So Emily says, I told you about Australian. So apparently there was this time, I guess, while they were together, I'm a little confused on the timeline here, that she had gone to this bar and this Australian guy came up to her and kissed her, and that was it. First of all, why would you allow some random ass stranger to come up to you and kiss you? I would have punched his ass in the face. I don't care what my relationship status is. What the fuck? Anyways, so Lily apparently told Brennan about the Australian kissing Emily. So there's this weird little situation happening between Brennan and Lily. I don't know what that is, but there's something going on. I wonder if they're actually, because brewing ahead a little bit, Brennan does mention that he has a girlfriend. I wonder if it's Lily. Because of Emily's reaction in a little bit, we'll talk about it. I do wonder if it's Lily. Because the way that Brennan seems to be protecting Lily is amazing. It's fucking amazing. So he's like, no, she didn't tell me. And Emily says, why would I lie? she told me. She told you. So, like, what the hell? But the main thing here is about the wanting to have sex with Lily. He says, well, why wouldn't you tell me this? And that's a very good thing. Listen, if I knew someone said some shit about my boyfriend, that he wanted to fuck some next chick, I'm going to go straight to him and say, is this true? I'm 100% going to do that. Or at least, like, even if I believe him, I am going to verify what I am fucking hearing with him at the end of the day. So she says, well, I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to believe it. And he said, and there you go. So, yeah. In terms of the friend reset, he says that he's like, I wouldn't have stayed if we didn't work to stay married. Like, he wouldn't have stayed with her. Brennan says, I thought we could stay friends after this, but not necessarily stay married. He had no intentions of staying married to her, but he did want to continue the friendship with her. And she says, if you didn't want to stay with me, you wouldn't have said no. I think that's what. Anyway, he says, but you were telling me if I left you would make my life a living hell. I 1000% believe she said that to him, especially under these circumstances. I 1000% believe she said it. And she's like, not true. And like, I don't believe I said that to anyone. But he's not saying you said it to any Tom, Dick, and Harry on the street. He said you told it to him. So, okay. Like, meanwhile, while she's actually saying, like, I don't think I said anything, she's not even looking him in the eye. Look at him. Talk to him in the eye and say the fuck shit you're saying right now, honestly. Anyway, it drives me nuts. So, now with her not being a positive person, and we've seen the examples he gave, we have the receipts of that. So, she's like, it would bring my energy down. So sorry, it would bring his energy down when she would be so negative. And she defends herself, and he says, see what I mean? She's just so negative. So because she's defending herself, because again, like, I don't think Claire, God, I don't think Emily is this, like, just this negative Nancy or something. I think she will say some shit that isn't necessary for sure. But the shit that she endured in her accident, she handled that a lot better than I ever would. So I think he's confusing being a mean girl or a gossip girl to being a negative person. And those two things don't go together. So yeah, him kind of being like, well, see. So basically any woman speaking up for herself, God forbid she's negative. Okay, great. That's about right. He says, because I said I wasn't attracted to you is a problem. And yes, we're about to see how much a fucking problem that is for her. And really and truly, she needs to get some help for that, I think. So she says, I will never believe that you weren't attracted to me because we made out every day during the honeymoon. So you think that it takes a man to be, quote unquote, attracted to you fully to make out with you? Maybe he's just trying some shit on and he's like, I don't like it. You know what I mean? Like, her reason, because again, she hasn't been in relationships, so she doesn't seem to realize that doesn't mean shit. You're hooking up with guys that may not necessarily be sexually attracted to you. I know she's had some, like, friends with benefits and stuff like that, but the one night stands, they might not necessarily be attracted to you. You're just a hole they can stick their shit in and they're going to go on their merry way. You're confusing just the animalisticness of needing to have sex to them being attracted to you. They're two different things. Are you kidding? I have had sex with men that I was not at all attracted to, but I had to get it done. So who cares? Like, again, her maturity level is really, really low, personally. Her emotional maturity level is very, very low. He says that's a lie. I think he made out with her to some extent. He's like, we made out once. I kind of agree with him. Maybe once or twice. I don't think it was like constantly. She says, why would I make that up? To make yourself look better. And honestly, to make yourself feel better. That's why you would make it up. Because then here's the kicker, guys, get ready. She's like, why wouldn't anyone want to make out with me anyway? Bitch, so you think you are this amazing woman that everyone wants to make out with you or have sex with you or whatever the case may be. Again, love the confidence, but the fact that you actually mounted that shit on national television, I really think that her issues are more deep rooted, and I think partially has to do with Brennan and potentially her feelings towards Brennan, but I think that's just the beginning. I think she has some shit that she needs to deal with. Anyway, he says that's delusional. Yeah, agreed. He says you're attractive. I'm just not attracted. And that is the difference. She's not an ugly girl. Okay. She's a pretty girl, but that does not necessarily mean you are attracted. He's attracted to you. Maybe he prefers darker features. He wants brunette, brown eyes or whatever. And you're blonde haired, green eyed. Like, I don't know where her eye color is, but like, maybe you're just not it on the surface. And again, there is more to the surface. You should be able to dig in deep. Look at Jamie and Doug. She was not attracted to Doug. Look at this. They're about to be family of 6. You know what I mean? So yes, it is more than just the surface, but again, Brennan is a narcissist. And with that, I think Brennan thinks he deserves what he deserves. And if it's not even close to what he's asked for, then he's not going to do it. Like there's shit on both sides. He says you justify things in your mind and nothing can be said to you to change it. And that is also true. Emily is not dating. Brennan is in a relationship, as I've mentioned. Emily says, I knew it. She's jealous. She still has feelings for him. And you know what? That's okay. And I can understand that. But anyway. She's like, I feel like I should find her and tell her to run at the first sign of you repeating patterns that you did with me. Why is that fucking necessary? Let the bitch just, do her own thing. She isn't hurting you. He's not hurting you anymore. And like, leave it alone. Again, it's a high school mentality where you're just gonna be like, I gotta protect this girl. When really and truly it's for your own reasons why you need to like sabotage him. Jesus. Anyway. And she's like, I can't read the first part I said, but the main thing here that she's like, I think America's gonna believe me over you. I believe neither of you. I care for neither of you. I wish you the best, but I never want to see either of you on my screen ever the fuck again. I hate you. I hate him. Get them off my screen. I hate Claire too. Get her off my screen too. You want to talk about, I think America's gonna, that's part of the problem. That's part of the battle. But you came out of this reunion looking like a horrible, shitty fucking person and actually solidified everything that Brennan was saying about you, about being a negative person. Because some of the things that she says about Cameron, I'm coming for her Wait for it. I'm not there yet, but I'm gunning for her. And I hope she listens. I don't care. Send this fucking podcast to her. Timestamp that shit so she can fucking hear it, because I don't care. Anyway. Brennan says, I'm a real person and you're belittling me. 1,000% Emily was belittling him. Now, did he partially deserve it? Sure. But I feel like she went a little too far and really and truly just made herself look worse than him. Emily, I wrote as a child, and I wrote Brennan is right. She is like a college girl, because he does say that. You act like a college girl. She's 100%. And she kind of took that as, oh yeah, I'm a party girl. No, what he's trying to say is your maturity level as a fucking human is at college level. That's what he was trying to say. I think that's fucking generous, honestly. I'm thinking more high school. Kevin is like, we gotta go. And they cut and they're still fucking going, y'all. Kevin is like, get the fuck off of my set. Now, get the fuck off. You can continue your bullshit elsewhere. Get the fuck off my set. Austin isn't feeling well, so he is going to be leaving to get some rest, and he should be back by the time the experts show up. Now the guys are next to talk to Kevin, obviously sans Austin. And Brennan says, they say we lie. I challenge their story and you see the cracks, and that's 100% correct. With Cameron, he says apparently, the women say Cameron wanted a way out and he found his way out. Excuse me? Aya una, fuck y'all. Because listen, this man I know what he went through a little differently, but I understand what he went through and the fear in that. And you want to say he had his way out, and you're basically saying it was his heart condition. Fuck you. I hope your parents are proud of you for the people you fucking are. Let's continue. I don't know exactly who's saying it, but I'm guaranteeing Claire and at least Emily are the culprits for sure. I'm not sure about Lauren and Becca. So he says my condition is not basically saying it's not fake. He says, it's obviously a stress-induced condition, which yes, it is. He's like, you want to talk receipts? Well, here are the receipts. He literally brings out his EKG, showing where they had to start his heart back 3 different times. They're going to fucking hell for the shit they just said about this. This is horrible. So, Lauren, meanwhile, we're in the women's quarters, and Lauren says, none of these men are men that we would have talked to outside of this process. Okay, fair. They're ugly inside and out. Lauren, honey. Can you please stop? Not to say that you're an ugly girl, because you're not. Okay? But you need to not talk about other people's looks. No one should be talking about other people's looks. Because maybe you're not necessarily, quote unquote, ugly on the outside, but you're damn well ugly on the inside, along with everybody else that you call your friend. So, anyway. In particular, for whatever reason, she pinpoints Cameron and talking about how he looks. Anyway, with that, Cameron's not feeling good. He wants to go lie down. He can't even take his meds for another hour. So he's going to go rest, and he'll see how he feels once the experts show up. And he will be back when the experts show up. So we got the group coming out again. Everybody. Obviously, sans Cameron and Austin at this point. We hear Emily say when Cameron gets upset, he runs, and I wrote, fuck you in caps. Until, you know what? I don't usually wish ill will on anybody, but I actually want you to live a day in Cameron's shoes with his heart condition on the worst day, and then come say some shit. Come be in, again, I come from a place that I understand what he's going through with this on the other side of things. Because I know he explained in the beginning the difference with what he deals with what I've dealt with. But come deal with the situation I dealt with. Throwing up, being sick, being in pain. Then on top of all of that, having my heart beat so fast that I can feel it. Literally having my mom in the room and me saying to her, my heart, something is wrong with my heart. You bitch, fuck you, fuck Claire, fuck Lauren. I'm not gonna say fuck Becca. I actually like Becca, so I'm not gonna say that to her. But the three of you, the three amigos, fuck you. There's so many other things you can come after about Cameron if you so choose. Coming after his medical condition is a fucking low. They're out here being like solidarity for women, and I'm over here like, I don't associate with that. I want nothing to do with that. I don't need that representation. Thank you, but no thank you. Like, are you kidding? Okay. So Brennan says, I take responsibility for not being transparent with you, Emily. And Emily says, I appreciate it. I don't believe you, but I appreciate it. Okay. She's like, it's a fake apology. Then why do you appreciate a fake apology? That seems counterproductive. Anyway, Claire says her piece. Then all of a sudden, Emily says, like, why don't we believe Claire? We just keep on digging and digging. And Kevin's like, who is digging? She's like, well, you. Oh, bitch. Oh, bitch, you want to come for Kevin? Okay. Um, and she's like, there's no grace. Does that like translate to you? You can't come for Kev. You know what? Wait. From earlier. You can't come for Kevin. You can't, honey. Okay. Anyways, let's continue. He's like, hold up. He's like, you're getting at me? Changes nothing. Amen. He's like, you rattling me changes nothing. You disrespected the show. And yeah, he's like, y'all want to get on me about it? Okay. Brennan says, when I met her, I thought she's a pretty girl. She's cool. But then I talked to your friends and they're telling me how you get ghosted all the time. And that you have like one night stands, which I mean, again, who cares if she's having one night stands? It's not your problem when she wasn't with you. But, and again, the ghosting, same thing. But at the same time, it's like, if you had this issue with her, you should have just fucking told her. That's the biggest issue. He says, oh yeah, sorry. Then we start talking about how she makes more money than him. Weird. But anyways, Becca says, but you should have told her and let the dominoes kind of just fall where they're supposed to instead of trying to control where the dominoes go and how they fall, and which I think is actually very insightful. But we still have a lot to go through with this freaking episode. So we're going to take a break here. And when we come back, we're going to be jumping in with Lauren and Orion. And I think they're the last couple we have to talk to before we move on to the experts. So, but yeah, we'll be back with that. And I am back. So let's finish this up, shall we? So, Lauren and Orion. Lauren has been traveling a lot. Then we get into, sex being off the table for him, if you remember this conversation. He says, I wanted to be fully me with her, and that's why he chose to maybe live abstinent. But Kevin says, like, she didn't do anything when she was matched with you. And Orion simply says, I fucked up. I think I have nothing to say. I agree. I think on the one hand, I understand what he means. But on the other side of things, she wasn't matched with anybody. Sure, she was maybe in this process. But do you pause your life because you're doing a process like this where you haven't yet even been matched with somebody? No, I don't think that's reasonable. So he's like, I never should have said it. And she says, I believe his apology is genuine. She's like, it's still tough. She doesn't trust him, and I think that's okay. And Kevin says, it doesn't even matter what she did before you. And that applies to everybody. It don't matter what your man or what your woman or whatever has done before you, because whatever happened before you is none of your business. So, yeah. Orion does believe that he left the process too early. You don't say. He didn't give things a chance, but Orion is not, so he's not like, so at one point Orion kind of says like, I left the marriage, I didn't leave the process. Like, he's not quite understanding that the marriage and the process are the same thing. Which is like, there's no marriage, there's no process, you know what I mean? But anyways, Lauren says, I am sad by who they matched me with. That's some harsh words. She believes that he wasn't ready. I don't think so either, honestly. She does not want a friendship with him. I think, again, she gave him many chances to have a friendship, and he kind of screwed that up. She just kind of wishes that he gets nothing more than what he deserves. And Kevin says, what does that mean? I kid you not, when I watched this the first time, I'm like, what does that mean? Literally seconds before Kevin's like, what does that mean? Like, thank you, Kevin. I want to know, what does that mean? And we don't really get an answer, but I think we can kind of read between the lines and realize that Lauren don't give a shit. Orion says, stop beating a dead horse, but Lauren is not kind of revealing that whether or not she's with anybody. I think she kind of wants to keep things close to the chest and like, whatever. She says she's simply happy, and that's all that matters. Orion is actually seeing somebody for the past 2 months. So good for him. So now we got the experts, and we asked, what are their thoughts about the deception? And they are upset about it. And I think understandably. Dr. Pia is actually disappointed. She's like, I'm actually a therapist. Like, I don't play one on TV. So she, she kind of takes offense to it. And we bring the women out first to talk to them. And Becca tells them that, the men wanted to look good on camera. That was kind of their main focus. You can tell Pastor Cal is like, what the fuck, y'all? Like, kind of similarly to what Kevin was saying. but it's on his face. You know, Pastor Cal wears his thoughts on his face. And he's just like, but you could have, not done it. Literally written on his face. It's great. So we're basically saying that the men were a part of this because, they wanted to control how they look. And at some point, the question is asked of who is the ringleader. And I feel like this has never been brought up prior to the experts asking this particular question. And the women are like, Cameron. And I'm like, oh, well, that's a new one. Pastor Cal says that he would have wanted to know at the time that the men were doing some fuck shit. He would have wanted to know. He would have wanted to know. And all the experts agree. Dr. Pia says, as much as I am, okay. She says, basically, because I can't exactly read my handwriting, but I kind of have the memory. Dr. Pia basically says that as much as I love that everyone is here for each other, having each other's backs, she does kind of wonder whether or not this key having each other's backs this strongly could be also adding fuel to the fire. And the funny thing is, I believe it would have either been Emily or Claire, but one of the two of them. The look on their face when they said it too was kind of like, the fuck you say? Like, I 100% agree with what Dr. P is saying. I think they are all, adding fuel to this fire that maybe just needs to be put out now. Yeah, it actually was Emily's face. So Austin is back. Sans beard. I guess he decided to shave his beard. We don't know why. Cameron's also back. So we have everyone, all the men are back. And the men come in now, talk to the experts, and Dr. Pepper says, she was shocked. So how did you come up with this? And she is directing the question at Cameron because based on what the women said, they believe that Cameron was the ringleader. Cameron says, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. And he says, yeah, this is all provable lies when he's told about him being the ringleader. He's like, I will take accountability for my part, but not that. Cameron says that they are the ones that came in coordinating, yet they're trying to tell us that we're the ones that masterminded this whole thing. Okay. Pastor, I find it funny that he said that. Pastor Cal is, what the fuck is going on here? Everyone's just, you don't know who's telling the truth. And, Brennan apologizes to Dr. Pia, though, in this moment for not partaking in their sessions. He's like, I take responsibility for that. He's like, I did not allow you to help. And Dr. Pia appreciates the apology. That's very big of him. I mean, I still don't fully trust him, but yeah, I think he definitely owed her an apology. So we got one more segment to go. We are almost there, guys. We're at the end. I'm just going through this because I am kind of over talking about this, honestly. So the women are too much at this point. And what is interesting is Cam says they were not friends during filming. And the men agree. Austin, Brennan, obviously. I'm not sure if Ryan had anything to say, or even Michael, but they, at least the three of them, seem to agree. Even more so, is Brennan says Emily hated Claire. And he says the only reason that Emily and Claire seem to be friends now is because Brennan encouraged the friendship. And he's like, wish I never did that. That's interesting. And you know what? I don't know about anybody else, but I believe it personally. So, um, so the women come in at this point, and I don't even know if someone was looking at her or what was happening, but Emily's like, don't fucking look at me. Keep your eyes down. God. She's like, don't talk to me, or anything like that. And Kevin comes in and says, y'all don't need to agree. Y'all don't need to like each other, but just be fucking civil, for fuck's sakes. Again, I agree. These people are children, especially Emily and Claire. It's ridiculous. So, let's talk about the double date situation. Cameron says, me and Brennan went to Union Station, and before he can even complete a fucking thought, immediately both Emily and Claire start crying. Just immediately, on fucking cue, to start fucking crying. And Claire accuses Brennan of wanting to fuck other people. Okay. Then she says that he did fuck other people. So let me re-say this for anyone who didn't watch the episode or needs that refresher. 1 minute Claire accuses him of wanting to fuck other people. Then she, after he retorts, then comes with another thing by saying, you actually did fuck somebody else. Okay. Brennan says, first you said I wanted to. Then you said I did. Which is it? And Claire only comes back with saying, doesn't matter, you were in a relationship. Okay. They barely were. Let's be real clear. But with that being said, and this is interesting because I think this was either said, I think it was said previously. Brennan made the very good point of saying whenever you come at them with some shit and you poke holes in their story, this was a perfect example of it. She literally was flustered. She's like, oh, it doesn't matter, you're in a relationship. So, anyway. Brennan tells Emily, he says to them, like, me and her literally just confirmed that wasn't true. But Emily is backtracking because Claire is still in her fucking ear. So she has to backtrack. And Emily says, it doesn't matter. But it actually does matter because you've brought it up. So now it matters. But the reason why it doesn't matter because it's not fitting your narrative. Then Cam says, we are the ones that are scheming, yet you're the ones that are, color coordinating. Lauren gets involved here. And I take offense to that because it is not the same thing. Okay. And Cameron says that you can't take a little jab, yet you have been jabbing at us the entire fucking time. And Laura says, me? No. Which is true. She herself hasn't been jabbing. But you're part of the group that has been jabbing at all of these men. So therefore, take some accountability for the fuck shit that's been going on against these men. But let's continue. She's like, but keep poking the bear and you will see what happens. I'm not scared of you, Cam. I'm not the one or the two. I love that. I'm not the one or the two. But the one thing I think, I can't remember if it was now or later. I feel like I did write it down, so I'll wait. But in this moment with Lauren kind of getting involved like this, I'm like, See, I don't understand why you had to say anything, because if you felt like there was nothing to what he said, you would have let it go. But the fact that you didn't kind of makes me think there's some credence to what he is saying, and you know it. Anyway. Um, Brennan says we went to dinner after you guys separated. And Claire said we were working on our marriage, but okay. You guys literally said you were getting a divorce. So how were you guys working on your marriage? And then let's not fucking forget, he got sick not long after. So when were you two working on your marriage? She's full of shit. Anyway, Brennan is like, can we roll the fucking tape for when you guys said you were getting a divorce? What the fuck? Then Emily gets up and walks away. It was so fucking weird. And I think it was here that it was, they kind of say whenever the guys speak, kind of any facts in this case, Claire's like, no, I'm done. I'm done. And Brennan says, not everything we say can be a lie. It's not possible. Now, it could be, but I do agree with what he's saying. Not everything the women can say can be truthful. Not everything the men could be saying is a lie. The truth is somewhere in there. And I'm kind of all over the place with who I believe, who I don't believe. I think it goes case by case for me. But I can tell you this. There's something very manipulative and conniving about Emily and Claire that I didn't see before. So, Emily is like, when she's still off, she's not back on set yet. She says, Brennan can't even acknowledge me crying. Why should he? You're not his problem anymore. Why should he acknowledge you crying? Lauren does speak some facts here. This is what I was talking about before. Speak some facts in this moment by saying, listen, I don't like hearing from them either, but you do need to let them speak 10 words before you then call them a liar. Let them speak them 10 words and then call them a liar. But they finish the story by saying, there was 2 women at a bar. They made a joke. That was it. So let me repeat, because we have some breaking in there. They were going to Union Station. They went to dinner after, I guess, both Cameron and Claire announced divorce. They saw 2 women, made a joke. We should double date with those women. Didn't actually act on it. Didn't approach them. Nothing happened. That is it. That is what they say. I don't fully believe them here. I do think that they at least, at the very least, approach the women, but that's not a date. But I do think there's more to this than what they're saying, personally. So at this point, once they're done the story, Kevin has asked Claire, do you have anything you want to say? She's like, nope. But then there's something about telling a friend of Claire's that she was cute. This was so out of left field. And I think it was Brennan who apparently said this. And Brennan said, show me the receipts. And Claire's like, okay. But then there was no receipts. So there's nothing else to really talk about here. At one point, Claire has her, okay, I wrote this down because I was kind of appalled by it. At one point, while they're on set taping this, Claire has her feet crossed in the chair, no shoes on, like she's in her fucking living room. That drove me fucking nuts. That's why I wrote it down. And not only that, but every time Cameron says something that doesn't yet again fit her narrative, her facial expression is kind of like, fuck you say? Like, it's just, oh. But we are at the end here now. this is basically it. I'm exhausted. I don't know about anyone else. But we do have a new season coming. And we're going to be heading to Chicago. And you know what? If Chicago Married at First Sight is anything like Love is Blind at First Sight, Chicago, I'm in. We will be covering this episode. But that is it for Married at First Sight. Reunions part 1 and 2. We're done. Now, my overall thoughts on this reunion. I feel like the women's main goal in coming into this was to make the men look horrible. Now, I'm not saying the men came out, not. They definitely came out not looking great either. Especially Brennan. There's nothing Brennan can do to make himself look better. Like, this is not possible. I think Michael was pretty unharmed in this. But when it comes to that, I feel like the women's goal to make the men look bad really and truly backfired on them and made them look 10 times worse than they could ever make the men look. Especially Claire and Emily. Emily is a child who has a lot of growing up to do. And also, because again, I think maybe she can be mature in certain ways, but I think in a romantic sense, she's working at high school levels because she hasn't been in a relationship before. And you need to work that muscle of being in a romantic relationship and learning when, if something doesn't work out or something doesn't go your way or someone didn't serve you in the way they needed to let that shit go. You get mad, you get angry, you get sad, but then you eventually find the silver lining and why it didn't work out. You thank the lucky stars and you move on. I don't know how long it's been, but Emily is not letting it go. She's just not even anywhere near letting this go. Claire, I believe she is the one that was the puppet master in all of this. I really do. I think her main goal with all of this was to fuck Cameron up and be also misery loves company. And I think the person she knew she could infiltrate was Emily and Brennan. Because she knew she wasn't going to be able to infiltrate Becca and Austin in the same way. And Lauren and Ryan were already done. And Michael and Chloe were, new to this, so she wasn't going to go there. The one couple she was able to infiltrate was Emily and Brennan. And I think I said this before too, because Cameron mentioned she'll take something and interpret it very differently than what was actually said. And I do wonder if she took whatever Cameron told, because I do believe Cameron obviously told her something. But I think she took something that Cameron said and twisted his words to fit her narrative. That is a manipulative, dangerous person to have in your life. Lauren, I wish her the very best. I really do. I want her to separate herself from these women. Honestly. Becca, same thing. I think she's a great person. Really inside and out. I think she's a great person. And I think she needs to steer clear of these women. And honestly, I think Emily has the potential, but I think is too blinded by her rage right now to look at the full picture and see where things went wrong, where Claire is concerned. Chloe's fine. But that's basically it. another season in the books. Now, I know we're supposed to be getting these more fucking episodes of this season. I don't believe I'm going to be covering it because I feel like it's the same shit over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm exhausted of this season. However, there does seem to be some drama brewing with Chloe, Lauren, and Michael. The little triangle we have going on. That I will talk about. So I'll probably tap that on to an end of another episode. Maybe one of the Selling OC episodes, because I still have, or maybe Seeking Sister Wife. But I've already started. Actually, no, I haven't started recording that yet, so I could tap that on to that if I watch it in time to do it. Because HEA is going to be too long. I haven't even done notes for that yet. And Selling the OC, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so that's the plan. I'm only going to be focusing on them because that looks like that's going to be drama. And I'm here for it. But with that said, that is it for this season 17 of Married at First Sight Denver. That is a wrap. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there, and you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube, and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.